Yeah, I'm David, really quickly. My background, I joined InMobi in 2011, right after the SoftBank funding, where I was on the user acquisition team. And then 2 years in, transitioned to AdX mobile tracking. So focused on attribution, and then later retargeting after the Criteo acquisition. And then I've been back for a year now with InMobi again, second stint, focused on non-gaming user acquisition. So, cool. So this presentation will revolve around LTV from both a demand side and a client side, right? So just defining LTV, obviously it's every developer's goal to achieve the following on the right? So you're acquiring a user, they're engaging, they're buying, they keep buying. That's the ideal sort of user. They're telling their friends, but the reality is the average user is much more like this one, right? So they've installed, maybe they've bought something, maybe they haven't. So that's a little bit more the average user, but obviously the goal is always that ultimate user, and understanding sort of where your users fit in, how you bucket them and how you segment them. The life cycle of the user is key to achieving the maximum value of your users. So really the most important part initially is subsequent install, understanding what your users are doing so that you can segment them. Getting really granular with your tracking, when you're working with the guys like Tune or whatever partner you're using, so you have a really extensive backend. The more data, obviously, the more powerful you can get with your targeting, the more creative you can get with your demand in general. So having everything included, doing constant analysis and continued optimization. So LTV in 3 parts. I don't know why it's loading weird. Acquisition, first and foremost, so acquiring the user. The days of run-of-network site optimization, sort of spray and pray type approach is really dying. You're seeing the consolidation of a lot of demand partners who aren't doing anything super sophisticated. So that's kind of the first part, is being creative about your user, you're acquiring the user, and doing it in a way to where you're actually honing in on an audience that matters to you. The engagement part is just continued optimization throughout the process, understanding your users, if they're getting stalled up, if they're not buying, if they're at some point dropping off, doing the analysis and starting to understand what at what point that's happening and if there's something that can be done. And retention kind of falls in that. Re-engagement is a huge topic in mobile. You spent money, acquisition has gotten really expensive. May make sense to reacquire a user that you've already acquired versus new acquisition. And then you have, of course, the pop-up notifications and just other forms that you can to ensure that your users are being babied and taken care of. In terms of KPIs, just as far as InMobi goes, the days of just achieve my $1.50 CPI kind of generally have died out. And guys that we're working with, the Ubers and Lyfts of the world, they're holding us to a cost per first ride type of KPI. Downstream events, so they have all this data, they know exactly what users worth to them. So it's really evolved into more of a CPA type model. And it keeps partners honest and keeps all of us at InMobi focused on quality versus just the old days of bursting and doing really aggressive buys or network takeovers and all those creative things that people did back in the day. So user-centric data science. So obviously the more you know about a user, the more sophisticated you can be. Understanding the demographics, socioeconomics, just things about the user. And InMobi acquires a lot of this data because it's first party, right? So we've integrated directly with the bulk of our publishers. So it's all SDK integrated, and these are things that we're being passed in an automated fashion, so they're all macros in place. So we're getting these types of data, creating cohorts, creating segments, and then versus doing a run of network site optimization, sort of extended process where ad budget isn't exactly being maximized. We could hone right in on the user based on this historical data and based on the data that the advertiser is providing us. Let me get a little bit more into that. And it's the tracking guys, I mean, this is really more just about an ongoing optimization, and these guys really do enable it. The most important piece, and I'll just quickly touch on it, is just how important the real-time passing of all these events are. Really like helped us hone in on those publishers and move budget away from sites that may be driving cost-effective CPI, but the user value is not there. So that really is important to have that in place, and it's an ongoing sort of automated thing here at InMobi. So this is just an example of some campaigns that we run. This ties back to the acquisition. Really our core differentiator and something that we're really proud of at InMobi is our native advertising, right? So this isn't necessarily an example, the next one will be. This is just a cool ad that we put together that's weaved into content. It's not disruptive. This was a pre-roll video. And obviously it's all about maximizing the user experience. Really leveraging the resources of our creative team, which is in-house, and they're all building all these videos out for us. So this is an example of our native unit. So we've worked and integrated in a custom, hello? Hello? We've integrated in a custom fashion with all these guys. And it's allowed us to sort of weave in ads and really unique placements right within the experience, right? So it's not that standard banner format. It's not intrusive, and the user's more inclined to engage with it. So that's kind of the first step. That's how so the LTV process starts. Yeah, so I don't know if there was a video for that. So moving on, this is something specific to InMobi. We're reaching now over 1 billion users in over 200 countries. So extensive reach, tons of data. How do we best sort of leverage those resources or leverage all the data that we've collected over the last 8-9 years? So appographic targeting it's looking at apps that a user previously downloaded, right? So if a user previously downloaded a Spotify and StubHub, it might make sense to potentially show that user that's downloaded those apps a Songkick app or an Apple iTunes app. Give them something that they've previously shown interest in. So leveraging that type of cohort, creating them for each category, music, entertainment, big social, gaming, etc. And then the next form of targeting is really leaning on our data scientist team, really getting sophisticated, again, ignoring that sort of run in networks approach. And this type of targeting relies on a few things. Obviously, we're leveraging our historical data, but it does also require that the advertiser, the developer, shares the data with us, right? So basically tell us, what your ideal user is. Give us all the characteristics, give us all the attributes around that user, and those are the qualities that we'll go after. For example, Uber looking for someone, more affluent audience, someone, whatever, in tech that shows, we're monitoring foot traffic in some cases. We have lat long, so maybe you want to, track users that are on market or have proven to be a professional or whatever. But obviously, having this data shared with us is what really enables it. And this is just, again, it's all sort of machine learnings. We're taking 200 user attributes that have come from your high user values, and then our engine is then locating that user. We have conversion-based pricing, so in an automated fashion, we were able to sort of, if a user is proven to be valuable, the sort of bidding mechanism is adjusting it based on the value of the user. So that's what we call conversion-based. And major channels? So all of our traffic is ours, right? So we've integrated with the publishers directly. They have our SDK in place. So that's kind of a difference. Is if you're leveraging Facebook, or a lot of times our position is, the owned and operators are great, and obviously it's difficult to sort of compete with them on an LTV point. But if you're looking to sort of extend your reach beyond those channels, InMobi is your partner, especially in emerging markets. Being based in APAC, being based in India, lends itself to sort of that sort of additional reach for advertisers. Yeah, so InMobi still, like, first and foremost is focused on new user acquisition, at least for my team. The re-engagement component, I'd say it's a very small piece of what we do, but it is as simple as providing us with your user device IDs and having us bid accordingly on the value of those users. But re-engagement still is definitely not our core competency, but definitely something that we can dabble in, but really not our core focus, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah, the native units really perform well. Again, it's around just they're weaved within the content. They're seen as less intrusive, and they're a little different than what people are generally sort of think about when they think of the ads, and changes the experience. Yeah, so again, I think the core differentiators are just how we're integrated with our pubs. They're doing, so AdMob is more like on the Google side, on the search side. So that's the core difference. Now those native units became a focus maybe like a year and a half ago or so. And again, just the purpose was to be a differentiator in the space, to have a unit that was more about LTV versus just strictly volume, standard units. Yeah.
Thank you.